Well, the controversial step-aside policy and regulation and resolution, whatever you want to call it, going to be a burning talking point this weekend. In fact, of all the things that the ANC is talking about this weekend, this is the one that most people are wanting to get some specifics on. It's been almost 5 years now since it was adopted, but as we saw at the ANC KZN elective conference just a few days ago, it seems not everyone is keen on it. In fact, they want it scrapped altogether. Political commentator Thamsanqa Malinga joining us. Tommy, good to have you on eNCA. Thanks for coming in, especially when it's so cold, by the way. So step aside or not step aside? This is a messy one for the ANC. Which way do they go?
Well, I think they will go not step aside. If you look at the resolution and the resolutions of the 54th Congress that took place in this very same venue, you know, it brought that step-aside rule. And because the ANC, due to, you know, we had COVID and all of that, they didn't have an NGC sitting which could then help say we're scrapping this because we're finding out that it's not working. So it's got to wait now for the next national elective conference. So it's going to be a very hot debate. You know, some will stand on that to say we've got to wait for the national congress that's coming in December, the conference, the national one that's coming in December, to be able to make sure that we revisit the wording of the step aside. But you know, as we've seen, you know, some within the delegates, when they are not getting their way, they become rowdy, and then the ANC has got to go back and say, let's find a political situation. Let's hope that they don't give in and say, let's find a political situation to that.
Do you suspect that this policy conference is going to be fairly awkward, knowing how clear KZN, the ANC KZN elective conference went? Because they were very clear, weren't they? They want step aside to be stepped aside. They don't want it to be in place. What do you expect from them this policy conference?
You know, it would have been nice if all the provinces came and said, we are going to a policy conference where we want to look at ourselves as the ANC and make sure that we put down policies that we're going to adopt in December that build us from within, so that we are able to now make sure that we deliver to the people. But if they are coming here with KZN saying step aside and getting support from here and there, and then you get other regions saying no, then it's going to be a wasted, there's going to be one wasted day where it's just people howling at each other.
If we were to kick the tin a little further down the road and say we had a policy that came out of this conference that got taken over from step aside, got taken over to elective conference in December, and it was decided to scrap the step-aside resolution, the step-aside policy, what happens with Ace Magashule? Because he's lost a lot of political traction. He's unhappy already at the moment. They then scrap the whole system, and what does he do?
How do you know if he's lost a lot of...
True as well. Has he gained or has he lost?
No, you will never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
but what would he do?
We always see people being passed, so we don't know whether that's genuine membership or genuine followers or just people being passed to come and support you when you appear in court. We see that with most members, not only in the ANC, with other parties as well. So, you know, again, for me, I'll say what happens with him, it's just too early to call. It's too early to call. Anything can happen between now and the day the ANC opens its 55th national conference.
And it is ANC politics. A lot can happen in 6 months, can't it, as well. All right, let's step aside for a moment. It's not the only policy that is going to stand out this weekend. Of all the roadmaps, this is the word we've been using on the show today, because you've got strategies, you've got policy documents, you've got policy planning, but all in the end they have to have a roadmap. Where do you think is the departure point for the ANC on this roadmap? Which one do they start with, and where do they try and take it?
Well, I think it's the revival of the economy. You know, I've recently written about the sale of the SAA, and I traced it back to say the ANC has always had a policy that they put forward, and it's debated whether we like, or there will be those who like it and those who don't like it, but it will be put forward. I'll make an example of gear, of RDP first. Then there was gear, hotly contested, but it went ahead. You know, then there was a whole lot. Now we're sitting with what we don't know, whether it's a government policy or it's an ANC policy or it's an individual policy, in terms of the sale of the SAA, in terms of the disbanding of ESCOM, in terms of the opening of the railways to private sector. You know, so I was asking myself, what is it a policy, or is it someone just woke up and thumbsucked that? It's like, yeah, I think we need to put in more trains there. Let's not sort anything out, you know. Yeah, so that's the one thing, the revival of the economy. That's the one thing that the ANC needs, and I believe that they need, with this conference, just forget about everything, about infightings, revive themselves and say, we are going out there to make sure that our economy as a country is good to provide jobs for the people in the country.
Yeah, it's not just ANC policy that affects ANC members, it affects the country, of course, doesn't it? I really appreciate you coming in. I'm sure we'll speak again this weekend. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Political commentator Thamsanqa Malinga joining us here to weigh in ahead of what's going to be day one of the ANC Policy Conference.